Okay, so this week after midterm, as I said, we are going to start the farm side of the market. Okay, so let's start with the cost. Okay, so the cost of production. So in this chapter, we are going to look at what is the production function, what is the marginal product, how are they related, what are the various costs, and how are they related to each other and to output, and how are costs different in the short run versus in the long run. We're going to look at what is the short run, what's the long run, and what are the economies of scale. Okay, so total revenue, total cost, profit. So we assume that firm's goal is to maximize the profit. Profit is what? The difference between total revenue and the total cost. The amount firm receives from the sale of its output. So this is P times Q. And total cost is the market value of the inputs a firm uses in production. Okay, and plus the implicit cost. So we're gonna look at what are the difference between the explicit cost and the implicit cost. So explicit costs require an outlay of money. So paying wages to workers, these are the costs that you can see. Okay, and implicit costs do not require a cash outlay, but it's, for instance, it's the opportunity cost of owner's time. Okay, so these are included into cost too. So remember one of the 10 principles that we did at the beginning of this course, the cost of something is what you give up to get it. Okay, the opportunity cost is the cost of the second best alternative that you forego. This is true whether the costs are implicit or explicit, both matter for the firm's decision. Okay, so for instance, an example. You need $100,000 to start your business, okay? And the interest is 5%. Interest rate is 5%. Case one, borrow $100,000. So explicit cost will be the interest rate. So this is 5,000 interest on loan. Case two, use 40,000 of your savings and borrow other 60,000, but savings also have an implicit cost. Okay, explicit cost. This is the cost of the loan that you are getting. Okay, 5% of 60%, 60,000 that you borrowed. Okay, which will be $3,000. And implicit cost. This is going to come from your savings account, okay, and so if we are assuming that your savings are in the interest in 2, okay, 5% interest on your savings, so 2,000, okay, so then foregone interest you could have earned on your 40,000 would be 2,000 again. So this is the total cost would be 5,000 again. Okay, so when we are calculating the firm's profit, we are considering the total cost. Okay, in both cases, total costs are 5,000. Okay, so accounting profit is total revenue minus total explicit costs. Economic profit, so there's a difference between accounting profit and economic profit. Total revenue minus total costs. Okay, so when we are talking about the economic profit, you are gonna calculate both implicit cost and explicit cost. So implicit costs are the cost in which you consider the opportunity cost. Okay, so accounting profit ignores implicit costs, so it is higher than the economic profit. Accounting profit. Okay, so accounting costs are lower than the economic costs because in the economic cost you have both explicit cost and implicit cost, but in the accounting cost you only have the explicit cost. Then accounting costs are lower than the economic cost, which makes economic profit accounting profit higher than the economic profit. Okay. So the equilibrium rent on office space has just increased by $500 per month. Compare the effects on accounting profit and economic profit. If you rent your space, if you rent your office space, if you own your office space, okay? So if you rent your office space, explicit cost increased by $500 per month. Accounting profit and economic profit each fall $500 per month. If you own the office space, explicit costs do not change as in the previous example. Okay, so accounting profit doesn't change, but implicit cost increase by $500 per month because opportunity cost of using your space instead of renting it is also $500. So economic profit falls by $500 per month. Okay, so now I hope you understand the difference between accounting profit and economic profit. In the economic profit, we are thinking about the economic cost. In the accounting profit, we are thinking about the accounting cost. And accounting costs are the explicit cost, and economic costs are the sum of explicit cost and implicit cost. Okay, so a production function shows the relationship between quantity of inputs used to produce a good and the quantity of output of that good. Okay, it can be represented by a table, equation, or a graph. Okay, so for instance, suppose Farmer Jack grows wheat. Okay, and he has 5 acres of land. He can hire as many workers as he wants. Okay, so the input in here is the labor, number of workers. If the number of workers are 0, the wheat will be 0. If it is 1, 5,000 wheat. If it is 2, 1,800 wheat, etc. Okay, so this is going to give you production function. Okay, this is going to give you production function. Okay, total product. So what is the marginal product? We are going to come to marginal product from here. So this is, so the output is shown by table in the left and by a graph in the right. Okay, if Jack hires 1 more worker, so marginal product is this, his output rise by the marginal product of labor. Okay, marginal product of labor is how much output increase due to an increase in the number of workers. Okay, 1 unit increase in the number of workers. The marginal product of any input is the increase in output arising from the additional unit of that input, holding all other inputs constant. Okay, notation is shown by delta, so change in this. Okay, for instance, change in output, so delta Q means change in output, delta L means change in number of workers, labor. So marginal product of labor is change in output divided by change in labor. Okay, so let's calculate the marginal product in here. Okay, so the effect of 1 worker in here is delta Q is 1,000, okay, and delta L is 1,000. So the change in the marginal product of the second worker is the change from 1,000 to 1,800, so 800, okay, and then the total output changes from 1,800 to 2,400, so delta Q changes by 600. Okay, and so these are marginal products. So this is the effect of the last worker on total output. Okay, and then marginal product of labor equals the slope of the production function. Notice that marginal product of labor diminishes as L increases. Okay, and this explains why the production function gets flatter as L increases. So we are saying that production function is concave. Okay, so this is the marginal product of the first worker, marginal product of the second worker, marginal product of third worker, marginal product of fourth worker, marginal product of fifth worker. Okay, why marginal product of labor is important? Recall one of the 10 principles. Rational people think at the margin. Okay, when Farmer Jack hires an extra worker, his costs rise by the wage he pays to the worker, and his output rises by marginal product of labor. So in order to decide whether he should hire the worker or not, he's going to compare marginal product of this labor with the marginal cost of this labor. Comparing them helps Jack to decide whether he would benefit from hiring the worker. And Farmer Jack's output rises by a smaller and smaller amount for each additional worker. So consider for this one I was giving the example of a cafe in which toasts are made. There's a toaster, okay, so you can make the toast, okay. So the number of toasters are limited. The number is limited, so there's just one toaster. Okay, so if there are one worker, he's gonna do the toasts, and he's gonna distribute to the customers. Okay, so if you have one more worker, one of them can do the toast and the other can distribute it. Okay, so additional worker can help there. But as you add more labor in this small shop, okay, the number of the additional workers is not going to increase the output much because the capital is limited. Okay, so in here, farm is limited as well. Okay, so as Jack adds worker, the average worker has less and less land to work with and will be less productive. Okay, in general, marginal product of labor diminishes as L rises. Okay, as L rises, whether the fixed input is land or capital. So in the example that I gave with you, toaster, the limited one is the equipment. In here, land is fixed. Okay, marginal product of labor diminishes as L rises, whether the fixed input is land or capital. Okay, fixed input can be capital or land. Okay, so diminishing marginal product, the marginal product of an input declines as the quantity of input increases. Okay, other things are kept the same. Farmer Jack must pay $1,000 per month for the land, regardless of how much wheat he grows. The market wage for a farm worker is $2,000 per month. It is expensive in the US. So Farmer Jack's costs are related to how much wheat he produces. Okay, so this is the cost of land is fixed. So this is called as fixed cost. Okay, and cost of labor is changing by the number of labors. Okay, so cost of labor is variable cost. It is changing depending on how many workers you have, and total cost is the sum of fixed cost plus variable cost. Okay, fixed cost is the cost of land, 1,000 in here, and variable cost is cost of labor. So we're gonna sum. If you have one worker, total cost will be 3,000. If you have two workers, cost of total cost will be 5,000, etc. Okay, so let's draw the total cost in here. So it's starting if you have no person to work, so there will be no wheat produced. Okay, but this farmer Jack still has cost 1,000 because there's a fixed cost of land. Okay, and it's increasing as he has more labor. Okay, okay, and then marginal cost is the increase in the total cost from producing one more unit. So this is the change in total cost as Q changes. Okay, so as Q changes, so Q is changing 1,000 in here, and total cost is changing by 2,000. So marginal cost is 2. We are dividing total cost, the change in total cost by the change in Q. Okay, and we are obtaining marginal cost like this by dividing the change in total cost to change in Q. Okay, and then we are going to draw all of them. Okay, and then marginal cost rises as Q rises, as in this example. Okay, like this. We are going to have something like this in here. Farmer Jack is, why marginal cost is important? Because Farmer Jack is rational and he wants to maximize his profit. To increase profit, he should produce, he's going to decide how many wheat to produce. Okay, so marginal cost is important for that. To find the answer, Farmer Jack needs to think at the margin. Okay, because rational people are thinking at the margin. If the cost of additional wheat is less than the revenue he would get from selling it, then Jack's profit rise if he produces more. Okay, so fixed costs do not vary with the quantity of output produced. So for Farmer Jack, as I was explaining in you the table, the cost of land is fixed, $1,000. Other examples, so cost of equipment, loan payments, these are fixed. Either you produce something or you don't, you are going to pay it. Okay, variable costs vary with the quantity produced. For Farmer Jack, variable cost wages, he pays to workers, and other examples, cost of materials. So total cost will be the sum of those. So let's give the second example. This example applies to any firm, any type of firm producing any good with any types of inputs. Okay, so suppose this fixed cost is 100. So either you produce 1 unit or you don't produce anything, you are gonna pay 100, or if you produce more, you're gonna pay it. Okay, so this is shown with a straight line, as in this one. And variable cost is increasing as you produce more. Okay, so you have this variable cost. Okay, and then total cost will be the sum of those. Okay, you are going to shift the variable cost at every point as an amount of fixed cost. Okay, so this is the total cost. Okay, and what is the marginal cost? Change in total cost. Recall, marginal cost is the change in total cost from producing one more unit. So this is the marginal cost. And usually marginal cost rises as Q rises due to diminishing marginal product. And sometimes, as in here, marginal cost falls before rising. So in the earlier example, we have the marginal cost rising from the beginning. But in this example, first marginal cost fall, then starts to rise. Okay. And in some other example, it can be constant. So this is the marginal cost. So it starts from 70, then for the second unit, it's 50, then for the third unit, it's 40, then it starts increasing. Okay. And average fixed cost, what is the average fixed cost? Average fixed cost, you are going to divide the fixed cost with Q. Okay. Is fixed cost divided by quantity of output. We have this. Notice that average fixed cost falls as Q rises. The firm is spreading its fixed cost over a larger and larger number of units. So it's going down as the firm produces more. Okay. And average variable cost, you are going to divide the variable cost with Q in here. Okay, so in the first column, it's given the variable cost. You're going to divide by the Q. Okay, and then you have this. As Q rises, average variable cost may fall initially. And in most cases, average variable cost will eventually rise as output rises. We have something like this. Okay, average total cost equals total cost divided by the quantity of output. And you have this also. Average total cost will be the sum of average fixed cost plus average variable cost. Remember, total cost was the sum of fixed cost plus variable cost. If you divide both right hand side and left hand side by Q, you're going to obtain this average cost. Okay. And then usually, as in this example, ATC curve is U-shaped, okay, something like this. And then average variable cost is similar. And as you can see, since average fixed cost is decreasing as the firm produces more goods, the difference between average variable cost and average total cost is decreasing as the firm produces more Q. Okay, so meaning that so the difference between this green line and blue line is the average fixed cost, and it is decreasing by Q. Okay. And then this is the marginal cost, and marginal cost is passing through minimum of average variable cost and average total cost. Okay, so please do this as an exercise. Okay, we are gonna solve similar to that in the extra. I'm gonna put some extra exercises to solve for this week on Friday. Okay, do it by yourself. Okay. Okay, so this is doing it, but do it by yourself because we're gonna solve more on Friday. Okay. And then why ATC is usually U-shaped? As Q rises, initially average fixed cost pulls ATC down, but eventually rising ABC pulls ATC up. Okay. So efficient scale, the quantity that minimizes ATC is called as the efficient scale. Okay, minimum efficient scale. Okay, and then marginal cost. If the marginal cost is below ATC, remember this green line is ATC, it means that ATC is decreasing. If marginal cost is above ATC, it means that ATC is increasing. Okay, the marginal cost curve crosses ATC at the minimum of ATC. Okay, so short run, the difference between short run and long run is this. Okay, so in the short run, there are some inputs that are fixed. Okay, so like capital. But in the long run, all inputs are variable, we are assuming. And also there's another difference between short run and long run. In the short run, firms cannot enter into the market, but in the long run, they can enter. Okay, so since we are doing the cost, we are dealing with whether these costs are fixed or variable. Okay, so in the short run, some inputs are fixed, factories land, and the cost of these inputs are fixed costs. And in the long run, all inputs are variable. Firms can build more factories, etc. In the long run, ATC at any Q is cost per unit using the most efficient mix of inputs for that Q, the factory size with the lowest ATC, etc. Okay, long run ATC with 3 factor size. Okay, so firms can choose from 3 factor sizes: small, medium, or large. Each size has its own short run average total cost curve. Okay, so long run average total cost curve is obtained from short run average total cost curve. So this is ATC short, small, ATC medium, and ATC large. The firm can change to a different factor size in the long run, but not in the short run. Okay, and so let's say to produce less than QA, the firm will choose size small in the long run. To produce in this interval between QA and QB, the firm will choose the size M in the long run. And then to produce more than QB, firm will choose the size L in the long run. Okay. And the long run ATC is the envelope of those short run curves. Okay, so if you combine all these curves, you're going to obtain a long run average cost curve. Okay, so in the real world, factories come in many sizes, each with its own short run average cost curves. And so a typical long run average total cost curve looks like something like this. Okay, it is wrapping all of the short run average total cost curves. Okay, economies of scale What's the economies of scale? Average total cost falls as Q increases, okay? Constant returns to scale. ATC stays the same as Q increases, okay? And then you are gonna have this economies of scale. ATC rises as Q increases, or we can say decreasing returns to scale, increasing returns to scale for these ones. Increasing returns to scale for the economies of scale, decreasing returns to scale for this economies of the scale, okay? Economies of scale occur when increasing production allows greater specialization. Workers work more efficient when focusing on a narrow tasks, more common when Q is low, okay? And these economies of scale are due to coordination problems in large organizations. Management becomes stretched, cannot control costs, more common when Q is high, okay? Costs are critically important to many business decisions, including production, pricing, and hiring. And this chapter has introduced various cost concepts. The following chapters will show how firms use these concepts to maximize profits in various market structures. So what we did in this chapter, implicit costs do not involve cash outlay, yet are just as important as the explicit cost to firms' decisions. Accounting profit is the revenue minus explicit cost. Economic profit is the revenue minus total cost. Total costs are including both implicit and explicit costs. The production function shows the relationship between output and inputs. And the marginal product of labor is the increase in output from a 1 unit increase in labor, holding other things constant. The marginal products of other inputs are defined similarly. So if we are defining marginal product of capital, we are keeping all other things same and changing just capital, and how the change in the capital affects the output. We are looking at that. And marginal product usually diminishes as the input increases. Thus, output rises, the production function becomes flatter, and the total cost curve becomes steeper. Variable costs vary with the output, fixed costs do not, okay? And marginal cost is the increase in total cost from an extra unit of production, and we can think this increase in the variable cost as well, because fixed cost is the same, right, in the total cost. The marginal cost curve is usually upward sloping, but sometimes it is U-shaped. It's decreasing at the beginning and then starting to increase later on. Average variable cost is variable cost divided by output. Average fixed cost is fixed cost divided by output. And average fixed cost always falls as output increases. Average total cost is total cost divided by the output. And ATC curve is usually U-shaped. Okay, and marginal cost curve intersects ATC curve at minimum of average total cost curve, average variable cost curve as well. When marginal cost is lower than ATC, we can say that ATC is decreasing. When marginal cost is higher than ATC, we can say that ATC rises as Q rises. In the long run, all costs are variable, so this is the one of the differences between the short run and long run. What is the economies of scale? ATC falls as Q rises, so this is the economies of scale or increasing returns to scale. What's constant returns to scale? ATC remains constant as Q increases. And this economies of scale or decreasing returns to scale, ATC rises as Q rises. Okay, thank you.